And welcome back to the never-ending garage yet again. So we are continuing work on the Firebird. When we last left off, we removed the fuel rail in the factory fuel injectors and replaced them with our newer to us fuel injectors, which were a lot lower mileage, so hopefully they flow a lot better. Okay, well, we've got our fuel rail here, and all of our old 222 some odd thousand mile fuel injectors pulled out. All of our old ones are over here. All of our new ones are in this box right here. So, one at a time, we're going to put them back in here and lube the O-rings so they'll slide in and out a little bit easier. Take a little motor oil, a little 5W20, and just go around and give the O-rings a little much needed lubrication. Kind of helps them slide in and out a little easier, so you don't have to fight with them as much. So these little retainer clips hook into your fuel injector right here. They kind of give you a little bit of help latching the rail, hold them in place. So for example, let's start back here, I guess. Slowly start to work it into place. A little more pressure as you go. Should slide right in. Get you all the way pressed in. All right. So here, this came apart while I was pulling it out of the car, and I lost the little O-ring that goes together with it, but I think one of these will fit just fine. So let's just give it some lubrication. Nobody likes it when it dries out. Let's see if we can get this rail to go back together. And we have yet to put the fuel rail back on, but I think the next best step before we even try to put the fuel rail back on in the injectors is to, one, remove this strut tower brace out of the way, so that'll make it, when we go to put the injectors back in, be a lot easier. And then I think we get that EGR valve off the back and put the block off plates on. I think that would be a great next step to get that strut tower brace back off. Mainly to get, because you got this sensor that screws into your coolant line. This coolant line on the bottom for the AC has to come back out. And then that kind of frees us up to be able to maneuver this stuff around. Well, now we need a pair of scissors or some tin snips or something to get this wire we extended up that goes to our ABS sensor out of the way, so we can pull this out and be able to take the strut tower brace back off. So I feel like I'm unprepared. So I guess now I'll go try to covertly steal a pair of scissors from the wife without getting yelled at for it. So I've been reading online all kinds of horror stories about OptiSpark cars, and I'm just hoping and praying that this OptiSpark, one, is installed correctly, which I'm pretty confident it is, and two, that it's functional for many years, or for as long as the engine sits in this configuration or runs. Because after doing all this work, the last thing I want to do is have to turn around and take the radiator back out, have to remove the water pump, remove the harmonic balancer, just to get to that damn Opti. So keep your fingers crossed, because I really don't want to have to backtrack and fix all that again. So okay, now we have back there in the back, on the back of the manifold, there is an EGR valve back there, and it's kind of hard to see. And if you're not for sure what I'm talking about or what it looks like back there, I still have the manifold unbolted from my Camaro. So we will pull it out here, show you what the back of it looks like, so we can illustrate what I'm actually talking about. So, EGR valve itself, and what I do believe we have here is there's a tube that runs down the back of the intake manifold. It comes out here and it kind of runs down the side of the, oh, I can't think right now. I have to cut this out. Bell housing, sorry. And to connect it into the header or exhaust manifold on the passenger side. But since we have eliminated the factory manifolds and went with long tubes, this isn't going to be needed. And for the simple fact that we're going to get rid of the EGR valve, this isn't going to be needed. So we're eliminating it all. That's what we're talking about. And without the factory fuel rail on there, it allows you to get back in there and see what you're actually doing. And I'm sure that wasn't working anyway. Yeah, I bet you that was shot. So, bam. What? Okay, so we've gotten the EGR valve off the back of the engine. And we have our little Superman logo shaped EGR valve block off plates. They come with these little bolts, little Allen head bolts, inverted Allen head bolts. But I don't know if I could get the ones that are in there out to put these in. To be honest with you, I don't think it really would matter. So I think I could just use the nuts that came on this thing from the factory and be good to go. Okay. The hell was that? It looked like somebody. I guess that was somebody squealing tires. So anyway, I've got a couple of lock washers here to bolt this on with. Sound like somebody hit a dog or something at first. Somebody's lame attempt at doing a burnout. Vastly underpowered vehicles, which that sounded like. I was just making light of this situation earlier today. I could have a part in my hand or a tool in my hand. I could turn my head one direction 1 second and it's gone the next. So, alright. I think they're tight. Enough to start by hand anyway. So we got our 13. Let's just see what we can manage to accomplish back here. Well, thankfully it sounded like that hit the ground. Don't guess I'm going to be able to use these lock washers. So, now I get to go down and pray that it hit the ground, and I don't have to crawl around underneath the car, around the transmission with a magnet for the next 2 hours trying to find one nut that I don't have to replace.
2,000 years later.
Alright, so we are back. It's taken us way longer than it should have to get these parts that are needed to work on this car. So when we last left off, to you it may seem like a matter of minutes depending on how this video ends up being edited. But I ordered an oil pressure sensor off eBay. Now, no fault of the person who sold it to me, but they chose to ship it USPS, United States Postal Service. So when it got to Kentucky, it went to Louisville. It went from Louisville, which is how we locals pronounce it. You may call it Louisville or Louisville or whatever, but it's Louisville. Went from Louisville to Fairdale. Fairdale's a small town just outside of Louisville city limits. And then it went to my local post office, which is about 60 miles away from Fairdale, well, 40 miles away from Fairdale. It stayed at the post office here for a couple of hours. Then it went back to Fairdale. It went back to Louisville, went from Louisville to Fairdale, from Fairdale to Louisville, and that's where it's sitting online. Now, the one I bought online is $13, and this one from AutoZone is like $47. I'd much rather have the $13 part, but I'm tired of waiting for it to show up, if it ever shows up. So we're going to go ahead and move forward with the overpriced one from AutoZone. So it does come with a little bit of sealant, a little Teflon on the threads, I guess. But I like to add just a little more. I don't want any leaks. Okay, I made the mistake of turning off the camera to answer the phone and forgot to turn the camera back on and proceeded to start working and made progress without you being able to see it. So we've got the oil pressure sensor installed and back here. All right, it took a little bit of maneuvering around to get it to where it would plug into the harness, but it's in there. So after that, we had to, there's a vacuum line here that originally connected to the EGR valve, but since the EGR valve is gone, we have capped that line off right here where it would have went over to the EGR valve. Okay, we have my wife's vacuum cleaner here, so I'm surprised she willingly turned it over. If she knew that I was going to vacuum off the engine, she probably wouldn't have given it up so freely. But anyway, so we'll see if we can't get this thing plugged in and maybe get some of that crap out of there, and then maybe go ahead and hit it with the air compressor too, just to knock everything away, try to make install a little bit cleaner. So we have our fuel rail with our new to us fuel injectors in it. These are the ones that came out of the Camaro, which doesn't matter how you want to look at it, they're bound to be better than what was in here to start out with. So I tend to have a lot of 5W20 laying around more than pretty much anything else, because pretty much everything nowadays runs on 5W20. My Mirage, I have a little Connell box, Mitsubishi Mirage, with a little 3-banger in it, and it gets like 45 miles to the gallon. But during the summer when I'm driving, before my wife stole it from me, I could get close to 60 at times. Wonderful little car, but horribly slow. I guess what you expect from a 3-banger. And then of course my Ram with my Hemi runs off the 5W20 now, so everything runs off this super thin motor oil. I guess everything's got much tighter clearances nowadays than it used to have. But my Mustang, my Viper, my Camaro, and my Firebird are all 10W30 or 5W30. Of course, you could probably use either one and never have an issue. Alright, now we've got all these O-rings lubed up, so hopefully this should be a simple drop it back down, and hopefully everything kind of lines up and works like it's supposed to. I don't believe that will happen. It never does. Okay, everything's kind of sitting in the hole that it belongs in. We just need to torque it down. Hopefully they drop down in there. And we don't have any leaks. Okay, all good on this side. You gotta go back and hook up all of these fuel injectors before we move on to the next problem. I love to drive this same car sometimes. I don't think we're going to be able to drive it very far through my residential subdivision with open headers on it. So let's get it running, get it on the trailer, get it over to the exhaust shop, get some exhaust put on it, and then we can start trying to put some miles on it and shake it down and I guess see what breaks next. But until then,